The story begins in the house of a family where their only refuge is faith. They mortgage the house to expand it and inaugurate the largest mixed animal clinic in Texas, where a picnic is held every month with members of the church. Their family was very united and fun until one night, their lives changed completely when Anna, one of the girls, had an upset stomach. Christy and Kevin spent the night very worried about their daughter and the risk of their new business. Christy, like any mother, realized that something was wrong, so after visiting 3 different doctors, she decided to travel to another city to be seen by a specialist. The specialist diagnosed that Anna suffers from reflux due to lactose intolerance, and as part of the treatment, she must follow a strict diet. They did everything possible to comply with the diet, but despite that, as time passed, the discomfort became a stronger and more unbearable pain. The pain was so strong that one night Anna let out a piercing cry from the irresistible pain, so her parents had to take her to the hospital in an emergency. There, another doctor saw her, and for the 4th time they gave her the same diagnosis. Christy could not believe it and indignantly told the doctor that it could not be reflux. Christy asked for more tests or for another doctor to see her, but she became increasingly irritated by the doctor's attitude until she started shouting, "I'm not leaving this hospital until I know what my daughter has." The doctor had no choice but to do more studies. After a while, the director of pediatrics arrived, and as a mother's heart is never wrong, Anna was not as well as the doctor had said. She had a total and complete abdominal obstruction, and if it was not resolved, she would lose her life immediately. The girl was subjected to some uncomfortable and painful procedures in order to perform emergency surgery. Afterward, the doctor explained Anna's condition, assuring them that she suffers from an intestinal motility disorder, which has no cure. They discharged her with strict instructions to normalize her condition, but not before telling them that there was a specialist doctor in these incurable cases and suggested that they visit him. Once at home, the family routine changed as everyone had to be aware of Anna. Although she looked quite weak, she felt better, but her abdomen grew disproportionately. Christy tried to book an appointment with the specialist but received no response because he was a highly sought-after doctor. As the days went by, her desperation grew, knowing that Anna's days were numbered. Christy felt her faith fading, despite the fact that the church continued to pray for the girl. To lift Anna's spirits, Kevin gave her a puppy named Napoleon, which made her very happy, although Christy was very upset because it caused more work for her than she could manage. The tension in the house increased more and more. Kevin and Christy fought about everything to the point that Christy no longer wanted to attend church. Her older sister, noticing everything that was happening, felt sad and worried, so she asked God for Anna to be totally cured, but instead, Anna's condition worsened. For that reason, they decided to travel with Anna to Boston without waiting for the appointment, knowing they could not sit idly by. As expected, the doctor could not see her without an appointment. Christy implored the receptionist, telling her how serious Anna's condition was, the terrible pain she suffered, and the treatment she was undergoing. The receptionist was moved and regretted it, but apparently there was nothing to do but wait for the scheduled date. Sad and heartbroken, Christy left, and they went to a restaurant, where they met Angela, a nice stewardess who, knowing they were not from Boston, offered to take them for a walk. Since the girl liked the idea very much, they decided to stay a few days longer. Actually, the idea of the walk was good because they enjoyed it a lot, especially Anna, who visited an aquarium she had wanted to see so much. Unexpectedly, Christy received a call from Dr. Nurko's office, scheduling an appointment for the next day. They couldn't believe it. Christy's hope and faith were reborn again, and the next morning, as expected, Anna was there, ready to undergo more in-depth tests for a possible, more hopeful diagnosis. Dr. Nurko was a very special doctor with a unique charisma. He knew how to treat his little patients with jokes and pranks that made children forget why they were there. However, that charisma diminished when talking to Christy, as he unfortunately confirmed that Anna's condition was very serious, with a very strong level of pain. The doctor explained with graphics the obstruction that Anna had, which had no cure. He also explained how the obstruction and pain could be controlled with very powerful drugs, but it could not be cured. When starting the treatment, they would need to bring her to the doctor every 6 months for a new checkup to ensure there were no side effects. With this situation, Christy lost faith and could no longer pray. Her husband understood her. The family was not in the best financial situation, but Kevin did whatever was necessary for them to be able to travel and take Anna to her appointments. Christy realized she was angry with God, and no matter how much the pastor tried to intervene to get her back to church, she wouldn't go. Months later, during one of the consultations with Dr. Nurko, Anna underwent more studies to monitor her condition as she had presented a relapse with green vomiting. After overcoming the crisis, she was able to go home again. There, she befriended her roommate who had cancer. Anna told her that she had a lot of faith in God and that she shouldn't be afraid to die. Later, she gave her a chain with a cross. That night, the painkillers had no effect on Anna, and she writhed in pain. The poor girl was already tired and just wanted to go home. She couldn't take it anymore, and crying, she told her mother that she wanted to die and go to heaven where there was no pain. Christy, with her soul in pieces, hugged her to comfort her. The next day, due to Anna's seriousness, Kevin and the girls decided to travel to Boston. At the airport, they had problems with the payment, but the cashier, overhearing Anna's little sister, became an accomplice and helped them board the plane, even though they would later have to pay overdraft fees to the bank. Anna was still depressed and didn't want anything until her father arrived with her sisters, and everyone was very happy, turning the room into a room for pillow fights. When the doctor said goodbye, he recommended that they try to take Anna to a child psychologist and spend as much time as they could with her, since family was the best medicine at that time. Already at home, as the doctor had recommended, Christy contacted the psychologist, while Anna went out to play with her sister. They dared to climb an ancient tree as they had done so many times before, but suddenly a branch cracked. With great fear, Anna tried to climb down but fell 10 meters into a hole in the tree. Her parents were desperate and unable to do anything, so they called the firemen, who arrived immediately, along with a news correspondent. Hours later, they still had not managed to get her out. Apparently, she was lifeless, as she had fallen on her head and did not respond to her name. Christy could no longer bear the terrible anguish and knelt at the foot of the tree to pray and implore God to save her, while the firefighters worked to get her out. Hours later, they succeeded. She was unconscious but still alive, so she was immediately transferred to the hospital. There, the doctor who treated her was very surprised. She only had a few small scratches and some minor injuries. The girl was intact, no bruises, no blows, no fractures, something impossible considering the conditions of the fall. As the days went by, Christy realized that, without taking any medicine, Anna no longer had pain. She played normally and her abdomen had returned to normal. One day, Anna told her parents something strange that happened to her when she fell into the hollow of the tree. She said that everything turned black and she came out of her body. It was very strange because she saw her own body, but she was not inside of it. There was also a beautiful butterfly. At first, she didn't know where she was, but she felt safe. It was a very beautiful garden. Then she walked among the clouds, listening to what God was telling her. She wanted to stay, but God told her that she had to come back, assuring her that she would return healthy. They decided not to tell anyone at the moment since they thought no one would believe them. Very doubtful, Christy took Anna back to Boston to verify everything her daughter said. The doctor was very surprised since everything was working perfectly. He sought a scientific explanation, but when he saw Anna, he realized that what had happened was a miracle. He said goodbye, knowing that Anna would never return. Later, Anna and her mother said goodbye to Angela, thanking her for everything. Before long, their story was all over the news. Christy had regained her faith in God and was in the church before the television cameras, recounting the experience of this great miracle. After explaining everything she had suffered with Anna's illness, she ended by saying that there are miracles everywhere, and sometimes they come in the strangest ways, with people who just cross our path, and friends who support us no matter what happens. Miracles are love, and God is love, and love is forgiveness. God shows us that we are.